One of a Kind with Rob Van Dam is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
This week's episode of One of a Kind with RVD is presented by Get Blitzed, and you can get 15% off your order when you head to get-blitz.com and use promo code RVD. Get 15% off.
That might have been a little bit of what you were asking about with the editing and stuff, maybe, because I just find it hard to believe with everything we've learned over the last several years that his thoughts, meaning Vince's, and also I find it hard to believe that Steve Austin's thoughts would still be the same now as they were back then.
So, part of some of the big news segments I think that came out that hit like social media, I know, and stuff like that. And I wanted your perspective on this. I didn't get to this part yet because I'm like maybe halfway into episode 4 right now. But apparently Stone Cold says something about CTE and how he kind of downplays it or anything like that when it comes to, he doesn't really like kind of believe in the aspects of it all and everything to that effect. I would kind of want to get what your thoughts were on him saying that, and then just your overall thoughts regarding anything.
Yeah, from what I remember, I was surprised, and it made me wonder if that footage was outdated, because at first the whole idea did get nothing but pushback, and also we hear Vince even saying, after they described, Chris Nowinski went to Chris Benoit's dad and had to talk him into giving Chris Benoit's brain to Chris Nowinski so they could study it up there in Boston, and that alone was like a really big deal, and then for the perception from the WWE to be, they were talking about this bullshit. And I get it that the dad has to be able to point the finger at something so he can feel better about what happened. But come on. And then even the way that they told that story even made it seem as if when Vince reached out to Chris Nowinski that he was like, let's, if you're going to do something, let's at least do it right, and not just put this bullshit out there. Like that's the way it came across. But I that might have been a little bit of what you were asking about with the editing and stuff, maybe, because I just find it hard to believe with everything we've learned over the last several years that his thoughts, meaning Vince's, and also I find it hard to believe that Steve Austin's thoughts would still be the same now as they were back then, because that was the thing back then, was to just deny it. It's bullshit, and that's the change always gets pushed back, especially everyone always wants to say it was better in the good old days, that's why you hear parents say, oh, we never wore a seatbelt in the car when we were younger, and our parents used to smoke cigarettes with the windows up. And yeah, I went through all that too. But look at us, we're fine. That's where we differ, And so you're not fine, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta, what's making you unhealthy? You don't even know, and maybe it could have been this. So anyway, the fact that his brain was deteriorated, Chris Benoit's, and he had the Alzheimer's, is what that's just a coincidence. Like, he happened to also, besides having Alzheimer's, like a 70-some-year-old, besides that, he also happened to act unlike the guy that I knew, or a lot of us knew and respected, and spent the weekend doing this fucking family side. I don't know. I mean, I really don't believe in coincidences because of synchronicity. I know that everything has its meaning and its place, and that one seems like it's written right there for us.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of indication that, hey, something happened to Chris over the course of the time, and it wasn't just. But
I do agree. It was, them showing him doing the headbutt over and over. Okay, I agree with him there. Like,
sure, yeah.
That most likely had nothing to do with it at all. But maybe that's more what he was talking about.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Because last week we were talking about like how people have a misconception of CTE and what a lot of the wrestlers in the business perceive CTE to be, where it's not necessarily like, oh yeah, I got CTE. No, there's more to it, like that, and
Right.
like kind of what I was thinking when I didn't hear Steve say this because I didn't get to that part of the documentary yet. But from what I was just kind of thinking about is maybe Steve was just meaning like, there's more to CTE than what meets the eye potentially, like, and that like, CTE isn't as big as, it's not the constant related to wrestlers all the time. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I thought maybe he was getting at. But like I said, I haven't seen that part of the documentary either.
I really don't remember specifically, but I do remember feeling like that whole piece felt counterproductive especially to it being Concussion Awareness Month, and trying to spread the word about how, if you question it, get checked out. If you think that you might be, you want to get looked at or something, because most likely if you get a concussion, most likely the worst thing that's going to happen if you go tell the team doctor or whatever is you might have to sit out. And guess what? That's good for you. You need to sit out and not play while you're concussed. And that's what a lot of us didn't know. That's what some guys will say they were forced into. That's the thing that Chris Nowinski had a hard time convincing people, that wrestlers had the exact same kind of damage and instances of the head jarring as the football players and then the soccer players. And like they all still give them a lot of pushback on it. But I've been there with them. And like we were at a college in LA trying to with Smashing Pumpkins,
Billy Corgan,
and they were talking to an auditorium full of coaches about implementing some of these new safety ideas that they had. And man, some of those football coaches just would not believe that was a thing.
Yeah.
And it seemed like so like how's this guy going to keep his job standing there saying this is all bullshit while parents are worried about their kids,
Yeah, right? Holy smokes. It's definitely a lot to kind of consider, and there's a lot of elements. It's good that, people are becoming more aware of it, and, there's a better understanding of it all.
And to what you said, a lot of my peers, they use CTE just as a general term because they just think that any concussion symptoms that they have is CTE. Mm-hmm. And that's an uneducated perspective on it. That's not the way it is. A lot of my peers, most of my peers that I talk to that are my generation or older, tell me that they do have some long-term concussion symptoms, be it floaters or headaches or whatever. Most of them do have something. They all think that's CTE. It's not. And I'm glad that Chris Nowinski helped explain that CTE is a degenerative wasting disease, and when you have it, you get worse and worse and worse, and then you're done. Yeah. And so for people to think just because they're sensitive to light that because a lot of wrestlers, they say that in conversation open, they say, oh, come on, Rob, we all got CTE to an extent, that. They haven't done the research or gone through what I had to go through to learn what I learned, but I like helping spread the word and educate people on that. So, get checked out, because if you do say you get your head rocked and then you ignore it and then you go out there and get it rocked again while you're already rocked, well, guess what? You keep doing that, you might give yourself CTE and you didn't even have it in the first place.
Right, yeah. Taking the necessary precautions to what we're doing and what like Chris Nowinski's helped learn about, and the NFL's taking the precautions with football players and stuff like that. It's just like, okay, there's a better process going on for how this is being handled in like organized sports or pro wrestling or to anything of that extent. So that's good to know.